Real estate is ugly. I mean, real ugly. In today's video, we're going to look at all aspects of real estate, what's happening, getting down to the fine details. I'm going to explain exactly why this is the case. And it's not just in one place, but of course, we're seeing it just about everywhere. I'm going to give you the details you need to know. Let's begin. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Real estate, it's a big subject, and we got to be careful using these blanket terms like a big market crash. You don't have what happened back in 2008 very regularly. That was an anomaly, and you can see that today it's a different scenario. There are problems. There are major problems, but it's very different. So we're going to break down those nuances so that we know what we can do when the time is right. Let's get into it. Here we go. New homeowners won't see a profit for over a decade. And because of what's going on, obviously with borrowing costs, we are looking at this today. Time to break even on a typical US home purchase by down payment amount. So it goes from 3% to 20%. And at 20%, that is 11.3. Okay. And it depends on the interest rate, of course, but they're assuming a 7% interest rate. Right now, many people are getting it higher than that. So it all depends. Get comfy, homeowners. It can take up to 13 years to break even on your purchase, according to Zillow's data shared exclusively to Axios. Why it matters, you have to stay in your house more than a decade before you can sell and make a profit. But historically, that was 5%, 5 years, excuse me. But it all depends on the mortgage rates. Look at the cost to buy a home. You have this huge number, and people were saying, yeah, but the monthly is low. Now it's not the case. You've got an extremely high number, whatever that is for your city. Maybe it's $1 million, maybe it's 800,000, maybe it's more, maybe it's 2 million. And on top of that, you've got this high interest rate. So of course that's burdening people. People are going to have to stay put, and that means no sales for a while until, of course, there is a crisis, and then everything can reverse. But until then, this is what we're dealing with. Remember, you've got to understand the simple market fundamentals. When we had the financial crisis, the housing crisis, one thing was for sure, there were way too many homes. They were building subdivisions. I remember this very clearly in and around the Las Vegas area, right in the desert, just building entire subdivisions. Nobody was living in them. And they just said eventually people are going to move in because real estate is this new thing. They were making it seem like it was, fancy new thing. They were building those subdivisions, but then financial crisis happens. Nobody wanted them. And they're in the middle of the desert, not a desirable area. And so, they became worthless. And you know what happened with all that debt. Now, it comes around where eventually those places fill up and people get them, and maybe some of them are Airbnb and maybe some of them are living full time. But ultimately what we can see now is that the inventory circumstance, particularly in the well-to-do, the sought-after areas with the nice schools and the lower crime, these places are in demand and look like they can remain strong. But if you're living in a city that never should have been prominent in terms of, its performance, those ones are at risk. More importantly, of course, commercial real estate is really the ugly duckling, if we can say that. All right. There is real, serious uncertainty around the world, and these issues are major. We're talking about LA and what's happened with the real estate. The strike is really a problem. The mansion tax is an issue. The insurance situation is chaos. Add to the fact that it's all culminating in the summer, which is the deader than dead time to sell in LA. If you don't have to sell, you're not going to right now. And that is not just for LA, but look at other places. There are new taxes. There are the burden of moving. When you do so, you have to pay some sort of fees, land transfer taxes, real estate fees, moving fees. I mean, there's so many things. So people are just saying, you know what? It's just, let's just stay. Let's just stay here. Let's just make it happen. People would rather add an extension on their property versus, so on. You know what I'm saying, right? So a lot of people just staying put. For home buyers, This housing market is even worse than during the Great Recession. 2023 is shaping up to be a record, the lowest of home sales, lowest level home sales since 2008. So when I say these things, how crazy these things have been, these are the kind of pieces of information I can bring to you. And it's all about sales, okay? And for these reasons, I don't need to beat a dead horse. Let's move on. I could show you that. September, home sales dropped to the lowest level since the foreclosure crisis. Homeowners on the brink face a tough choice of selling their home as mortgage payments climb. For a lot of people, this is what they're dealing with. In Canada, of course, you've got a problem that's different than in the United States. Because in the US, you can get a fixed term, 25-year, 30-year, and you're literally paying that same interest rate for the whole period of time. But if you're in another country, whether it's Canada, whether it's Australia, you've got to, kind of renegotiate that mortgage every 3 to 5 years, depending how you set that up. And you're not getting it longer than 10 years, for sure. But that sweet spot for the interest rate might be somewhere in that 3 to 5 year range. And so a lot of that is coming up now. So they've got a very difficult choice to make. Oh yeah, it was a $2 million home, but I could afford it. Oh, it was no problem because the interest rates were at rock bottom. I was getting that mortgage at 2%, so it seemed like nothing. Oh, but now it has come the point in which I need to renegotiate that mortgage and interest rates are way up here. No. The government better do something fast. I keep hearing this all the time from people. Oh, no, the government's going to have to cut rates fast. Are they? Or are people going to have to do something about it? What is it? If their actual, the amount of the payment is going to be significantly higher. Is it 30% higher? Is it 50% higher? I mean, depending on where they are at. But they are carrying a lot of debt and now at a higher rate. This is the big concern right now for real estate. We know that to be the case. Everyone is in the process of waiting, and rate cuts, if they do that, would create an extreme surge. If they just brought interest rates down right now, like this, the chaos that would happen, the inflation that would happen as a result of this would be unbelievable. And it's going to have to happen at some point. We'll see if they can actually shake out the speculators. I don't think so because they're really antsy. Let me tell you. Home sales on track for the slowest year since the housing bust. Same data, but I can just show you that chart where we're looking at that and how significant it has been. These sales have been dropping off. Nobody wants to touch it. Now, I found this to be interesting. Tiny homes are the hot new homeowner accessory, also known as backyard cottages or garage conversions. Some states are encouraging their construction to ease housing shortages. We're seeing this also in other countries too. Canada has deployed this as well. Depends on more regional. If you go down to the city level, they have a housing shortage. Okay, now you're allowed an additional dwelling on the property, and doing so allows them to compress more people into these areas. That's what they want to do. That's what they're forced to do, because at the same time they're saying, oh no, you're not allowed to build high rises because that's going to create too much congestion, all these things. So you got to do this. And now we're going to see a lot of properties where in the back you've got a single family home, a little, additional dwelling of some sort, like a studio apartment kind of, that will be able to bring people in additional income. So maybe they'll do that. That will help pay their extremely expensive mortgage. And you might see people doing this already, where they might have had a garage back there. They convert the garage, spend the minimum they can, get that into a property that is suitable to live in. And now people can find an affordable house. I see this to probably be employed more all around in these very expensive cities, and more people to be accustomed to it in general. So look out for that. Have you seen that yourself? Let me know. I'm interested where you have seen this specifically, because this is starting to be something that I'm seeing more common, more places. I'm seeing more articles about it, whether it's a tiny home, whether it's a garage conversion in some way. I am seeing this. And this, is it going to alleviate the issue that we just talked about a few minutes ago? No. But that's what they're saying. They're trying to help out and so on. Mortgage originations will surge 19% in 2024 as a recession will force rates down. Now, you might be Australia, but it might be the United States and it might be Canada. It doesn't matter. If they cut rates, you are going to see a surge, and the data may show that. Well, of course, that would be a very big problem for inflation in general. People would be permanently unable to afford it. That's it. Any generation that just didn't buy, you got to inherit it. That would be the only way. Commercial real estate is set for a more difficult time in the next couple of years. That's according to Deutsche Bank. He points to the rise of remote work and higher for longer rates as key factors. This is the case. And I'm just trying to highlight once again, when we look at commercial, when we look at residential, it's important to separate the two. It is very clear commercial's in a bad situation. Yes, the origination here might be because of what happened with mortgage rates, with interest rates, but that affects things differently. And we are seeing that clearly in the separation between commercial and residential. When we looked back in 2008, residential was the big one. Commercial kind of sidestepped that. But now today, it seems like the tables have turned. Let's look at the different regions, okay? And it really makes a difference where you are. Seasonal hotspots. You can look at this very clearly right here. Where do the rich people, all right, the centimillionaires, where do they go? And I just found this article important to connect in because it tells us where, you got to follow the money, right? And it tells us where is potentially an interesting place for more than one reason. They could go anywhere. Now, you'll see here the difference. Year round, where they reside, and then holiday. So holiday is one thing. It's interesting. It might be beautiful. It might be calm and might have a nice beach or something. But year round, I think that's telling. That's where the money is. And that's where perhaps the economy is. That's where people need to be, right? Like you might see New York, but the New Yorkers, as soon as they're not working, they want to get out of there if they got the money. Okay, you could see Miami on the top of the list, all right, for both. And there's a good reason for that. Pro-business and so on. And of course, the weather, even in the wintertime, is nice. So you can look at that just going down the list. On the other hand, Hamptons, people aren't living there year round. But when it comes time for holiday, things are certainly changing. All right. Looking at this, the Californiization of the Texas housing market. It's not just this way. So you had expensive homes in California, a lot cheaper alternatives in Texas, and still jobs, right? That's the difference. You can move to the middle of nowhere, but there might not be any jobs. In this case here, a lot of people are upset, but it's not just Texas, not just California. What we're seeing here is that people are moving out of expensive big cities into the smaller cities and towns, and it's disrupting everybody because people there, they're saying, hey, I can't afford this. What are you doing? You're screwing everything up. Also, at the same time, the political issues that might be very different that I know I've heard from you, and you could tell me that people say, don't California my Texas. Okay, I think that's the line. This is just talking about the luxury property market, and Dubai has performed better than everywhere else. And there's different reasons for that. You're getting money basically coming from everywhere around the world, including Russia. And so that's just very clear. But at the same time, I want to make something noteworthy here about Dubai and United Arab Emirates. What did they do with their real estate? Well, they screwed up big time back years ago. And now they're saying we are not going to let that happen again. They learned the lesson and they're applying it today. When you want to do construction on a building, everybody's got to pay up first before they even dig in the ground. The construction, like the money for the construction is there. The money for all the units have to be there. Everything has to be paid up. And then you could start building. Now that's one way to get things going and make sure that nobody goes bankrupt along the way, and at least make it much more secure. And so they don't want to have the same mistake. And right now, there's so much money flowing in there. This is an easy job for them to do. We'll see if that changes in the future. All right. If you want to be able to get the details of everything I share, I mean, you got to go over here to the Money GPS. I'm trying my best to give you all that through Compass. That is my free financial education program. You've got everything that you would need here. I'm trying to bring more and more services to you, but definitely check this out. The link is in the description. I want to see you over there. Like, so many people have gone through. I check the numbers all the time, and I'm really excited to see that people are getting this information because it's really important. Okay, I learned this stuff a long time ago. I read all these books just so that I could be more informed, and I hope that you'll get something out of it. Thank you very much for the comment of the day. It says the front door, we're talking about layoffs here. So the front door ain't good enough anymore. They got to kick us out the back door too. I'm sure the side door is coming next. Also, Apple's the only company I've seen that gets more faithful consumers for every new downgrade they make. There's some changes going on, but regarding layoffs here, you could just see that more are potentially coming. And I would hope that everybody get wise to this, to see what's happening with the economy and understand. We'll conclude with this, that you've got to be aware of these circumstances right now. Okay? You got to take advantage of where you can, but understand there's more inflation coming. Real estate works even now in this environment here, but numbers have to make sense from day one. If you can't make sense of those numbers, don't get into it. Don't get into it. Don't say, I've heard so many people, yeah, it's cash flow negative now, but when this happens, I'll be okay. That's a recipe for disaster. All right. Last one. Don't be fooled by a quote, sure thing. You got to follow the numbers. You have to. It has to make sense from day one. Follow those numbers and, keep a close eye out. Don't wait for this perfect moment to occur because it never does. Understand that more inflation is the likely outcome in most scenarios. We can see what countries do. They like to devalue their currency, that's for sure. Do you agree? Let me know. If not, hit that thumbs down button. I want to see your opinion. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.